It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 446. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Gotta go fast.
Kodra.
448?
What did I say? Did I say 446?
You did.
Oh, apparently I can't read an 8 and a 6 from each other. Tam.
Hello. I don't know numbers either.
And Thalen.
We're going back and trying again on our show from 2 weeks ago, clearly.
Yeah, no, like I just peeked up in the top corner and I guess I read an 8 as a 6.
We're keeping all of this. We're not restarting the show.
Oh hell no. No, you're gonna get
Not
all
again.
this wonderful splendor.
No, that would require
Some people don't
editing.
believe us when we say we don't edit.
Here you go. Here's an example. Yeah. So we're down to Grace this week, but everybody else was here. I was uncertain, given it's a holiday weekend and also PAX weekend. So, but folks are here.
I've gotten all of my traveling out of my system.
Well, you don't really have to travel to go to PAX, though.
It's true. Also, I probably won't be on for a show next weekend. Maybe, we'll see.
Goodbye Volcano High. I remember seeing the trailer for this. I have never played it.
Oh my goodness, it came out this week, and it's really good. So, like...
I got Night in the Wood vibes from, or not in the Woods vibes from it.
That's definitely the right vibes to be getting. You are playing as Fang, a non-binary dinosaur in their senior year of high school. And Fang opens the game. They are working on some music they're writing. And, like, it's a bit of a rhythm game. Like, there is... hey, we're going to have some beats. You need to, like, do the directional pads to the beats. We're going to have some notes for you to play. And it's, first off, this game is, like, basically fully animated. Like, unlike a lot of the games which are, like, the visual novel style that this kind of is, like, this game is just constantly in motion. And it starts off with you working on this song that you're trying to submit to get into the Battle of the Bands. And you're super excited because finally you get accepted, only to discover, like, hey, it's also the first day of school, and, oh man, the two other people in my band have been doing very much not band-related things this summer, and their passions are definitely elsewhere right now. And you're just really excited for this whole band thing. But whatever, it's an awkward high school thing where we're awkwardly going through high school. It really captures it perfectly for me in the first day where, like, so there's a you go to homeroom class. That's one of the first scenes. And the teacher gives you the story about how, hey, this is your last year in the nest, and then we're going to push you out into the real world. Like, you've been coddled up until this point. None of this has ever mattered. But after the end of this year, everything's going to matter. And so everyone needs to have a plan for what they're going to do. At one point, another student, like, pitches the question to you, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go on tour with my band. Like, we're going to write new songs. We're going to get a van. We're going to go around and tour. And, like, the teacher's extremely dismissive of this. And then the student who pitched you the questions, like, comes up afterwards, is like, hey, can I talk? I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to pitch you that question like that. I had no idea you haven't figured out what you're going to do after the school's over. And I'm like, wow, you're really feeling sorry, but you're also saying the worst possible things I can imagine. This really is high school.
Yeah.
And then you find out, hey, there's been some weird, like, stuff going on with our cell phones. And that's because, there's some electromagnetic anomaly. It turns out there's an asteroid, and it's entering the solar system.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
This is a game about being in your senior year of high school, and it's also the end of the world. This game has a lot of feels to it. It's really beautiful. The soundtrack is gorgeous. Like every time you go into like play a piece of music, like the game really comes alive and all of those scenes are just beautiful. Like your Fang very much cares about like music. It's very obvious. They're very good at it. No one understands them. I will say, content warning: your mother like both misgenders and dead names you a lot, like incidentally. Which, if you're not up for that,
Yeah.
like that's sort
Realistic, but
it's realistic, but it is definitely hard. The game's got a lot going on. It's really gorgeous. It's really like it is. It feels more like I am playing a video game that is a cartoon. I am also like I am interacting inside of a cartoon that I think I ever thought we'd get to. The seams of the video game are still there, but they're much better, much more well hidden, and the animation is really well done. Like, I encourage you to watch the trailer and understand that those aren't really cutscenes, those are just the scenes of the game.
Yeah, I assumed those were all cutscenes when I first saw it, and that it would be kind of a, I don't know, storybook kind of thing.
No,
nope.
You are constantly putting in your input into those scenes as they are going on, and they are constantly in motion. It does look like a cutscene, like it's the quality we expect of a cutscene. It just isn't. Like they've managed to make that the entire game.
It's kind of impressive, honestly.
It's very impressive. I've gotten to the end of the first day where you find out that the meteor is coming, and some scientists aren't sure whether it will collide with the planet or not. All of the information is very nebulous. No experts are commenting definitively, but boy, is everyone online speculating a whole bunch.
As one do.
Your Twitter feed is garbage.
Hey, that's like real life too.
Yes. But yes, everyone is an extremely adorable teenage dinosaur.
Like, to be fair, as a high school senior, it kind of also felt like your world was ending.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Well, your world is ending, like, oh man. Your world is ending, but for a lot of people in high school, like, the world you're in sucks.
Right. Yeah, like, so it was a good trade-off that maybe the world ending that you knew it would bring on a better world, and it did. Like, or at least a marginally better world.
Yeah, but now you're a bunch of high school students looking at, hey, like, what's the point? The game also does, I've seen this in a couple of things where, like, Persona does this a decent amount, where, like, hey, you wanted to say that, but your confidence wasn't high enough. Mm-hmm. Like, you have the option that you think would be, like, correct and reasonable to say, and then it's like you try and select it, and then it like TV statics out and is like, oh my god, I could never say something like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that Persona does that I think is really funny, and also makes it may not let you replay it here, which would be a pity, but like that's one of the most fun parts about Persona replays is like I do have the confidence to say that now.
Yeah, I do not know what replayability there is here, but the game is visually stunning, and its soundtrack is incredible. I just want Fang to have a good year at school, and I can already tell that's not going to happen.
No, probably not.
Doesn't sound like things are starting off well for them, so yeah.
It is also, there are points where the game does, like, it is not in motion, but those are usually like when you are going into a long extended like texting sequence, which it kind of works because like that's what texting is like. But you are also a high school senior, and therefore you are in multiple group chats. And the activity level of those group chats is also like, boy, it really hits the vibe of like, I'm the only one chatting in this group. I think this group might be dying.
So PAX West is also this weekend. Who all's gone?
I have been for one day.
Yeah, Coach and I were there yesterday. I will probably try to go by early Monday in order to get Path of Exile 2 in because the line for that was long.
Oof. Yeah.
I'm glad there's a lot of interest.
I will also, Grinding Gear was one of the larger booths there.
Well, Larian also has a huge booth.
Larian also has a huge booth, but I mean, it's mostly like they went all out to like make a big Baldur's Gate themed booth. And they had actors playing Mind Flayers.
That's a choice.
I mean, Mind Flayers are the big bad of this game, right?
Cough, cough.
Cough, cough.
It's, I think, actually the same booth they've been using for the past few years. It's just that they got to show their board game a bit. They didn't have a big line for gameplay demos because they didn't exactly need a whole bunch of gameplay demos for their most recent game. This is actually post-release instead of pre-release like they usually are at PAX time. So they got to show off, they got to use more of the space for their board game, which has been in development for a very long time. I don't remember when that kickstarted. 2019. So, you know, it's been understandably delayed.
They've had other things going on.
Intercreates was there with their usual type of stuff. I did not know there was going to be an Azure Striker Gunvolt 3, but apparently there is. I'm so behind. I only played one.
What was and that is like a new Mega Man style game, right?
It's Mega Man X themed-ish. It's got mechanics that emphasize not being hit and combos and running through stages in an efficient manner. It's quite fun to actually play. I suspect it has a fun speed run. Okay, I've seen people speed run it. I know it is a fun speed run. The game they had that was new that I didn't know about was called Yohane the Parhelion, Blaze in the Deep Blue, which appears to be a Metroidvania of sorts. There are too many Metroidvanias.
I mean, this one seemed fine.
Yeah, the pixel art was, it's Intercreate, so the pixel art's good. The character has a sort of battles by summoning things mostly, which is weird. Like if you ever played, I
can't think of the name of it right now.
Folklore was the first one that came to mind, but there was also that FromSoft game on the GameCube that I can't remember.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about the pseudo Metroidvania that's pixel art side scrolly where you basically have Pokemon that fight for you.
Oh, it's not like that. Not like Monster Sanctuary.
Okay, yeah.
No, your ally is like directly your weapon. They show up like right behind your character and do a strike.
Yeah.
I was watching Ash play this one. It seemed like there was some canceling basically kind of stuff going on where you couldn't do 2 attacks in quick succession, but you could do 2 different types of attacks in quick succession.
Your character can summon things, and then they also have their own weapons that they can materialize. And you can like cancel a character summon into a weapon summon, but you can't do with 2 character summons back to back or 2 weapon summons back to back. And like weapon summons eat up a resource bar, so it's kind of interesting balancing those two.
So do most character summons, except for the one that you start with, which is Giant Wolf.
Yeah, Giant Wolf, who talks to you, is the best character in the game, and that might be enough of a reason for me to pick it up. It will not be the first Metroidvania-like game to have done this, after Flynn, Son of Crimson, did it.
Metroidvania has weirdly become one of the most diverse categories of the last decade.
Well, so Metroidvania can mean a whole bunch of things,
right?
That's sort of the problem.
That's the problem, really.
It's a genre soup. Like, is Zelda, most Zelda games, a Metroidvania? And if not, explain why.
Right.
Because unless you say, like, they aren't because they aren't side-scrollers and they're top-down, then, like, yeah, then, okay, that probably cuts out a whole bunch of different things. But, like, once you start defining Metroidvania a little bit broad, a lot of games fall into that category.
I mean, I think platforming is an important element, which means some Zelda games might actually fit, but most wouldn't.
Like, even if you just limit it to games that call themselves Metroidvanias, it is a hugely diverse group.
It's because if you take the sort of founding 2 games, Symphony of the Night and we're going to call it Super Metroid here.
Yes.
They put emphasis on dramatically different things. So, like, even those 2 games that basically founded the genre they're real different from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
one, like Symphony of the Night is kind of an ARPG in an aspect, because like it's about leveling up to some extent and equipping better gear.
About
and-
leveling up and getting power and fighting things.
And
Yeah.
and getting new weapons from killing random monsters. Like you have to farm for Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, that's the thing they dropped in other Castlevania games, and I think they're better for it. But
Yeah, as opposed to Super Metroid, where all of your power ups are just from finding like Chozo statues and stuff.
yeah, Metroid, much more than Castlevania, wants the exploration to be front and center. You need to find this weird corner you haven't gotten to before. As a result, it cares a lot more about movement. Castlevania does. The Symphony of the Night does. That's another thing that sort of changed as the series went on. There are Castlevania games like Order of Ecclesia that care a lot more about how you move through the world. And it's not just find Bat and stop caring. Other things. There's a sequel to Pixel Junk Eden, which I did not expect. I didn't think anybody remembered that Pixel Junk Eden existed, much less the creators of it.
Yeah, it was co-op too, so we got to sit down and play it together. That's a weird game. Is that what Pixel Junk was like?
That's what Pixel Junk... So Pixel Junk is a sort of brand
Okay.
of extremely unconnected games. I want to say Pixel Junk Racers was like this slot car simulation, and that was the first game. Pixel Junk Monsters with tower defense. Pixel Junk Shooter was the first one that I think I got really into.
That was
And
the
it's
one
this-
I mostly played.
Got this weird element combination gameplay thing. It feels like it was going from some of the same ideas that we used when we made that bowling block game at Gambit, weirdly enough. Or like Noita, if you've played that. That game was good. It got a sequel. And they made Eden, which is a platformer, in an extremely loose sense of the term. It was about growing flowers.
Was it also the like swinging, flipping, double jumping around type of growing flowers that we were playing?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, that was a weird thing. Like I didn't hate it. We definitely got lost in it though. It also seemed like there was probably a whole bunch of skips.
Oh, almost certainly.
It felt like
Your character is very gifted in terms of how your mobility.
Yeah, there's
So you don't
definitely-
need to get every single flower to make it to the end.
But it was it was pretty for an abstract game. It was very abstract though.
Yep, very on brand for that series.
There was also Impulse, which I saw.
That's the game that I thought was extremely weird.
Yes, I did some research into it. It is like one of the pitches is it's like from a bunch of esports players. But the idea is we want to bring Kaizo gameplay to more people. And like it is an extremely aggressive platformer. I kind of wanted to get my hands on the controls because that game could either be like extremely fun or completely unplayable depending on those controls. But yeah, I don't know. It's the idea of that game is you are able to shoot out various like music notes, and those music notes have different properties to them, and like it felt like you were building this like massive while you're doing a whole bunch of platforming, you're building this like massive Rube Goldberg machine to try and get yourself through this level. Now the challenge here is like it's definitely one of those games where like as the mechanical difficulty goes up, conceptual difficulty goes down, because there really is probably only one path to any of those levels. Like you do the right path or you die.
I think their showcase may have suffered a bit from only showing the really complicated stuff.
They like you start off with some easier stuff, but I think it's supposed to like quickly get to that level of complexity. They're not trying to do the normal style of gameplay.
It's true.
Like the company is called Shell Jump. That's making I looked that up. I was like, oh, your game studio is Shell Jump. Got it. We know what we're getting ourselves into.
For anyone not aware, a shell jump is a weird double jump thing you can do in Mario games by holding onto a shell and jumping off of it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, you like the idea is you can kick a shell against a wall, and the shell will ricochet back off of the wall. And if you throw the shell at the right height of a jump, you can then land on the shell as it is coming back towards you and get a higher jump than you could otherwise get.
No Mario game ever made expects you to do this, or even gives you a good place to do it.
It is.
But Kaizo games really, really like to use this tech.
It is the language of Kaizo games. There is an infamous Kaizo game called Thumb Shredder, in which you can press a button to have Mario start holding a shell. Like that would you press R and now Mario is holding a shell. And you just have to do infinite shell jump. You have to do shell jumps all the way through the level because everything else is danger.
I'm so torn on my feeling about this sort of thing. Like, it's really neat, and it's this like really, really clever application of like the unintended mechanics in the game. And it's like so diametrically opposed to everything Mario is designed to be.
Mm-hmm. So there is a very good YouTube video. Well, I'm not gonna. It's a very interesting YouTube video by Patricia Taxon about the Celeste Spring collab, and within it she has a section called "Canonizing Speedrun Tech," and basically the thesis is like speedrun, like in the realm of speedrun, nothing matters about the tech you are doing other than does it allow you to go faster. As soon as you are starting to build games around like people leveraging speedrun tech, it deserves to be asked, is this speedrun tech well designed? And like in Celeste, they actually do canonize a bit of speedrun tech, the wave dash. The wave dash is where you jump and dash down diagonally at the ground and then jump out of that dash to get a long dash, a long jump with a dash at the end of it. You can do this exact same thing without doing the jump beforehand by just doing a down diagonal dash while you're on the ground, waiting like half a second and then jumping. But that's harder to explain to people and therefore is a worse designed bit of speedrun tech, is the thesis. And I think a lot of that can apply to a lot of these games as well. And like, that's where I worry, like you are designing a new game. You need to make sure that all of this tech you're designing for your players to execute is well designed.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those things that's like well, I mean, we'll talk about this more later, but like it comes up a lot in modding where people will put together a mod and they'll be like, well, why wasn't this in the base game? This makes this thing so much better. And it's like, well, it's actually kind of janky and wouldn't be shippable. You just accept it because you hold mods to a different standard and or you're very focused on the specific application of this thing that you're personally familiar with.
Right. Or the thing that makes the gameplay better for you personally.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's totally legit. But there's
a prime example is there's a plethora of more realistic survival mods for Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
Do you know what I don't care about doing is having more realistic hunger or thirst or urination meters in my Fallout New Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to some extent, it's why MMOs kind of died between 2015 and 2020 or so, because nobody could figure out something that wasn't hotbar combat and kept making stuff that was close enough that it could just be modded into hotbar combat. But hotbar combat was on the outs and had been on the outs since 2010. And until somebody finds something different that works better and continues to give you the ability, depth, and variety that you need for an MMO, it's going to be really hard to get there.
Yeah, I imagine, especially with that is a challenge with MMOs where it's like mods, like speedruns are usually done on single player games where if you don't like the tech that speedruns ask you to do, you can just ignore it. But in a MMO, if like it becomes canonized that in order to be good at a game, you should be using hotbar combat mods. Well, it's rude to suck at World of Warcraft, so you'd better
Right.
use that hotbar combat mod.
Right. Yeah, like it's there's been that we've talked about it before. Like there's a arms race between mod creators and encounter designers where they're constantly trying to outdo the other to create something that isn't instantly defeated.
I mean, I think that you end up seeing a bunch of, future MMOs that just don't give you modding hooks. And like that'll drive people crazy. But
Not that this has stopped people, because it's not like FF14 gives you any modding hooks.
it's true. But I mean, you look at Destiny. Like there is a Destiny mod community, but it's pretty limited comparatively.
Well, like Destiny is a weird dichotomy of giving you extreme control over a lot of the elements that people would be building mods for in the first place.
Yeah.
So like you can do all manner of gear sets and weapon swaps and, looking through your items to determine what is the best all through the API. But like it has a hard limit. Like it's just inventory and vault manipulation. And anything other than that has been considered cheating. But we know it was possible because there's been a very public battle against a mod maker in court.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely think like it's a lot harder for games that are multiplayer where the way mods impact your game could impact the culture of your game. That's that definitely puts things in a completely different layer than like for single player games.
And it's somewhat different. I mean, when you're talking about something like the mod community, there is some, like the Kaizo community, just to come full circle, like if it's faster, you must do it.
That's true for the speed running community. There is and this is where there is a difference between people who are doing speed runs of content, which there are definitely people who are doing speed runs of modded content, and people who are just but most of the Kaizo community, like a speed run is how the speed at which I beat this game is dictated more by how few of deaths did I do it in.
Yeah, I guess what I mean, fast is the wrong term. It's like if the technique required to get through this section is not something you like, well, guess you're not getting through that section.
That's 100% correct.
And I think that at some level that is one person's view of, now granted it's the modder that's making it, but like one person's view of how the game should be played affects a bunch of other people's play.
I think this is why something like the collabs, both the Spring 2020 and the Strawberry Jam in Celeste are so effective, is because there are 111 different takes on how to play Celeste. And if one isn't jamming with you, you can just go to another one.
Yeah. I mean, and at some level, that's why game design, like studio level game design works, because people argue. Like there are people with differing viewpoints that disagree about how the game should be played versus like how you should get through this section. So you're basically baking in those varied viewpoints, especially because you're also the studio level. You're usually getting a pretty wide range of skill.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's I mean, that's the other interesting thing about this is like this is a game that is being marketed to people who watch people play Kaizo but are intimidated by playing it, and it's trying to be like a handhold into Kaizo. There are already plenty of handholds into Kaizo, and some of them are actually decent at it. But I will say Kaizo Mario is a particular beast of a project because I mentioned this before. Mario is a game with extremely easy level design and an engine that wants you to die. Celeste is a game with acceleratingly difficult level design and an engine that is going to cheat on your behalf almost all the time. So if you take a engine that is trying to kill you at all times and pair it with extremely hard level design, you get it definitely feels oppressive. Even at the easiest levels, you die a lot, and they have done some assembly code to add in quick restart, but it's still not that quick.
I mean, one of the most perfect systems for that I've seen is Super Meat Boy.
Yeah.
Like Super Meat Boy indexes so heavily on if you die, you're back immediately, and they make a whole bunch of concessions to make that true. And I think they're smart concessions.
Also, the level design, while eventually very punishing, leads you into this very well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That game sometimes does not get enough credit.
It's an unbelievably clever game. I completely agree.
Back on PAX, one thing, like, and again, I felt this. I don't know if this is true or if this is just because I went to Gen Con 2 recently, but PAX feels smaller than I remember it.
It's funny because it's in a larger convention hall than it used to be in.
Yeah, but the large portions of the convention hall it used to be in are now like Nintendo.
That's fair.
Wow.
Nintendo has a chunk of it. Still, though, it's kind of cool to see them set up in the shiny new convention center. It's definitely not as big as it was pre-COVID, but it is bigger than it has been the past 2 years, I think.
They are starting to get board game vendors to show up, though, which I thought was nice. I did get tickets to Nintendo Live, so I'm going to go see that on Monday, and I will report back how that went. Hopefully there's something...
What is Nintendo Live?
Nintendo Live is not PAX.
Okay.
It's just taking place at the same location.
It's Nintendo's booth at PAX, but it's not PAX.
Okay.
Nintendo did not otherwise have a booth other than their Pokemon stuff, which did still have a booth.
Yes. So there is, like, basically the entirety of the main convention floor is now been converted into a massive Nintendo expo.
That requires separate tickets?
Yes, but you don't. So I put myself into a lottery to get them, and I got them. I don't know how many people put themselves in the lottery and didn't get them. I don't know how, like, well ticketed it was. Great question. I didn't have to pay for them, though.
Oh, so it was just like, admission slips. So
Yeah.
essentially.
So it's like getting into one of the special areas at Universal Studios or something.
Maybe, but I don't have to pay for PAX either.
Ah.
Like, yeah.
What?
Yes.
So you can just
How?
go to... Okay.
It's not PAX.
Yeah, it's a separate thing taking place in the same convention center.
At the same time, conveniently, as PAX.
Okay.
That's so weird.
It's very weird. Large video game publishers have decided they don't need other conventions to sell their product. They can just do it themselves.
Yeah, I feel like
mean,
Nintendo's
it's a
correct.
truthful statement. Like,
Like, this is Nintendo doing to PAX what it already did to E3.
As mentioned when we were talking about E3 back in the start of the summer, PAX is probably going to continue to exist for a good while longer, along with Gamescom, because they are consumer-oriented and not media-oriented. Also, like, while it isn't PAX, part of the PAX registration process was, do you want to try to also get tickets to this thing? So it's not PAX, but they're definitely associated.
There's definitely some similar vibes going on.
I don't know. Like, the parts of PAX that I enjoyed were the little indies that were making games, and we're very proud to show them off.
And I still think that's the coolest part.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got to play Beastie Boy. Or Beastie Ball.
Beastie Ball?
Beastie Ball.
Sweet.
Yep.
That looks real good.
Yes, I kickstarted into that game and then I played it. There's 3 starter beasties. You select one and it's like, okay, I'll take these other 2 and we'll play volleyball. We'll play Beastie Ball. It's like, wait, don't I need 2 beasties to play Beastie Ball? No, it's fine. You'll be good with 1. And then they immediately spike it to a place where your beastie is, and it's like, oh, I guess you do need 2 beasties to play this game.
Whoops.
But yes, it seems interesting. It's turn-based volleyball. We also got to watch they had a speedrun stage where you could go and, like, they were doing a GDQ event there. We watched the end of a true ending Hollow Knight run.
Nice.
I didn't
It was
realize
harrowing.
the true ending got 0 upgrades.
Yeah, they definitely did a good portion of the Mantis Traitor Lord fight with one hit away from death.
Yikes.
It was very impressive to watch. I also am like now fascinated by like the concept of GDQ. Like
GDQ, the convention.
GDQ, is it a convention? Like, do people go to GDQ who are not there to speedrun or commentate?
People go to watch speedruns sometimes.
I guess. There's not a ton of space in those rooms. Like, that room seemed like roughly the GDQ sized room, and
That room was
not
much
that big.
smaller than the GDQ room.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were doing it in like one of the panel rooms in the convention center.
Other thing that happened this week, Starfield came out.
Space game.
It's not vaporware.
Yay.
Oh, it was like. Did people really think it was going to be vaporware?
There were people that were like, man, it's not going to actually do any of the stuff they said it could. And
Oof.
People
haven't been paying attention to Bethesda, I think.
I mean, so their last game release was a game that a lot of people don't like.
Sure.
And their game release before that was 12 years ago. So people have either forgotten or literally weren't around for it.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Like
okay, so I not related to Bethesda, but related to Blizzard. I was like, okay, so what would a modern generation think of that studio? And everything that has been released since Diablo 3 has been very microtransaction heavy. So like someone who's only been around in those games since 2013 would have a wildly different impression of that studio than I grew up with.
Oh yeah, like
so like that might also happen with Bethesda.
Yeah, I mean Bethesda is one of the last remaining like old school legendary game devs.
Like, I do not mean this as a slight, but Starfield is definitely a Bethesda game.
It is.
I mean,
that's what people were going for. Like, isn't that the goal, right?
Like, it feels very Bethesda.
Yeah,
like gotta push NPCs out of the way to get out of hallways. Like all of that good Bethesda jank is there, but like also I went into the game expecting that. Like that's just kind of part of their open world formula, and it feels like all the other Bethesda games that I have played through multiple times at this point.
Yeah, like so I've put about 10 hours in, mostly just wandering around and barely doing anything useful.
Yeah, I'm about 10 hours too.
But like, I mean, it's Skyrim in space. If I tell you it's Skyrim in space,
I don't think it's Skyrim in space. I think it's Fallout in space.
Sure, Fallout in space. Bethesda game in space. Like, if you hear that and you go, that sounds...
I completely forgot about Fallout 4.
Some people didn't like Fallout 4?
Some people didn't like Fallout 4.
I mean, I didn't like Fallout 4, but that's a separate thing.
But if that model isn't... If you don't hear that and you're like, yes, I'm in, then, or like, you probably have an opinion about that just from that statement.
Yep.
And if you don't, it's probably worth a try because it might be up your alley. But if you're expecting like something different from Bethesda, like if you weren't playing video games in 1995, let me tell you, Bethesda's formula hasn't changed significantly since 1995.
Yeah.
It's just nobody else does it. They're the closest game to even attempt what Bethesda's been doing for the last 30 years is Cyberpunk 2077.
Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds was very much Fallout in space.
It was trying to be anyway.
So the problem is Outer Worlds was not on the scale of a Bethesda game.
Right. That is the problem.
Yeah.
I've described this game as a much higher fidelity version of Outer Worlds, minus that game's particular humor.
But see, that's the thing, is like the scale is what makes a Bethesda game a Bethesda game.
Yeah, that the world being just huge. Like, you can wander off and literally get lost.
Yeah. And like, so my first like hour with this game, in all honesty, my first hour of this game, I picked it up, I played through the like intro tutorial part, and then put it down and went back to finish Armored Core 6 because I bounced off it so hard. The intro to Starfield is written having listened to all of the people that say that have been making memes about the Skyrim intro for the last decade, and are like, Bethesda games take too long to let you just get to things.
While that scene is very long on repeat playthroughs, it does an amazing job of setting the scene the first time you play the game.
Yes. Starfield does not.
Oh.
In my opinion. Like, Starfield sets you up with a couple of characters, characterizes them quite well, gives you a hook, which honestly has been done before, but been done before in very good games. So while I roll my eyes a little bit, I'm willing to give it a pass. And also, they seem to be doing something more something different with it. And then, like, hits you with the hook, and it's like, okay, I broadly get this hook, and then just rapid fires you into, now you have a spaceship, go out in space, go, at the expense of like all of the characterization they've just gotten through doing.
Yeah, to be fair, like, some of the characterization that just happens isn't completely thrown away, because, like, those characters are still around for a while.
Yeah, like,
you're reminding me of what's that incredibly bleak looter shooter?
Oh, Outriders?
Yes, you're reminding me of Outriders, where you've got this whole intro with all these characters that you meet, and then, none of them matter.
Well,
They're
yes.
all dead.
So one of the things about the game is you can have a lot of crew members.
Yeah.
So you can bring both of those characters that they spent a lot of time developing around the galaxy with you as crew members.
I have come back. The very first thing I've done, given when I got the opportunity, was to go back to those first few characters and see if some loose ends get tied up, and they don't. Like, it's kind of a return to form, and I kind of like closing the, like, tying up that loose end. But honestly, I think one of the better written outcomes is everyone but you dies. Like, they could have written the intro that way, and it would have worked, and I think it would have been less jarring. Because, like, I mean, I don't know if you mind spoilers to the first 30 minutes of the game, but I don't know. It threw me off, because it was like, why are these people doing this? This makes no sense to me. But everybody around me is treating it like it makes perfect sense, and I should go with it.
Oh yeah, no, I still agree with you on that point.
And then less than 30 minutes later, the writing takes off, and it's quite good. Like, this is, in at least thus far, the vibes of this game are impeccable, as is the, like, chunky analog NASApunk visual. It's just really, really good. It reminds me of what the original Destiny promised me it was going to be and then wasn't. Like, this is the game that I thought that original Destiny thing was going to be. And, like, it's really cool. I'm actually really invested in wandering around and doing stuff and figuring out how to get more storage space and so forth. But
that's easy. You just download an add-on that gives you more storage space.
I mean, yeah, but, like,
I do not believe that inventory management is a valid form of gameplay.
I totally disagree. I think inventory management can be one of the most interesting, because it forces you to actually make value judgments.
Yeah, no, I just want to loot it all.
But like, I think my biggest critique of the game is it is using the Fallout crafting system, which I mostly actually like, but it has less intuitive objects and crafting materials, which makes it somewhat harder to figure out what you need to pick up.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm hoping someone's going to mod this like they did for Fallout 4 to where you can hover over an object in the world and it tells you what it gives you.
Is there a breakdown?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah, like I haven't found a breakdown items, and I haven't found a place where I can, and like maybe this is what outposts are supposed to be, and I don't have one of those yet, but I haven't found a place where I can put all of my resources and then craft using them.
In your ship cargo, which is different from that locker behind your pilot seat.
How do you access the ship cargo?
You have to click on your ship, and then hit a button to open the cargo.
Weird.
And you can do that from outside. Like if you are in the vague vicinity of your ship, you can dump stuff into your cargo.
Oh, I see.
And that's what the research feeds from. That's what if you've got a big enough ship to have crafting machines, that's what it feeds from is your ship's cargo.
Okay, so I don't know what the locker is you're talking about, but I do know the like cargo hold panel, and that is the same thing.
Okay.
But yes.
There is also a locker that's called the captain's locker that's on the floor, kind of back behind the cockpit.
Gotcha.
And those are two separate storage bins.
But like the amount of useful raw materials that you can pick up like immediately, and like I mean I could start making like weapon and armor and stuff upgrades. It's like it's a ton just right off the bat, and I was like,
it's very No Man's Sky in that aspect where there's a lot of stuff you can harvest just on the first like before you leave the mines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I was encumbered like the first time I got on the ship. But I don't mind that as long as there's a way to manage that reasonably. Like I have the same problem in some MMOs where but I have a button to like send all of my crafting resources to my crafting resource repository.
Yeah, like I already have a mod installed to remove encumbrance and basically give every inventory unlimited.
Yeah, and like I'm I just got through, extolling the virtues of, I don't think it's actually interesting gameplay to literally hit E across my entire field of view forever, picking up every like screwdriver and wrench and bubble lever and hammer and bucket and just scads of nonsense. Like I actually like the "is this worth me picking up?" question. And even I'm considering, modding this out because I need more stuff than the game has let me carry. Like I've already filled up 3 companions inventories and my ship cargo, and I'm like 80% of my personal load, and I'm, like trivially. So I think that's a thing.
Before we started recording this show, I was curious. Out on Nexus Mods, there are 130 mods that are new just today. Shocking to no one. The mod scene is attacking this game.
Oh yeah. I mean, and there's a lot to this game that I could see wanting to mod. The other one is, this is a problem I had in FF15 as well. And I think it is an interesting design choice, and I understand why they might have made it, but also I don't think it was the right decision. There's a bunch of core mechanics like jetpack and stealth and lockpicking that you cannot do unless you've spent a skill point to get the basic mechanic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my core problem with like the weapon crafting system is you can't do a lot of interesting things unless you invest in it.
Yeah. But even like, I was surprised that just crouching did not stealth me until I spent a point in stealth. And I can see how the creators of Bethesda games might look at some metrics about how people play their game and make some make some decisions to try to diversify people's builds a little bit. Because the other thing I haven't found in 10 hours of gameplay is a gun with a range of more than like 30 meters effectively.
So I found an assassin's version of the Maelstrom semi-auto, and that is the closest thing I have right now to a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it fits the bill of sniping, but yeah, that's a thing that I was shocked I didn't actually just find a sniper rifle.
Yeah, they would really, really like you to try doing something other than stealth arching.
Well, but the problem with that,
once
though,
ever.
is, and this is, okay, so like the gunplay in this game is infinitely better than any other Bethesda game has ever been.
It's true.
But that's not saying a lot, because there's still a lot of jank when it comes to combat with groups of enemies. Because once it is go time, every enemy in the entire camp has perfect understanding of exactly where you are. And you've got people firing on you that like can't even see you. So like that's weird. Companions make it impossible to stealth for the most part. Like if you're attempting to do something sneaky, you should park your companion outside of the area. And they gave you a handy, hey, just wait here a second option.
Yeah, And as a result, I'm actually playing it differently than I've played every Bethesda game previously. Notably, your companion, if you have a companion who is stealthy, like actually has that skill, they will sneak and they are good at it.
Okay.
You just don't get one of you have to go a little out of your way to even get one of those.
I think I just started running around with a companion that probably can stealth.
They'll tell you.
But I had the big dumb cowboy when I was trying to stealth something.
They did that cowboy is more adorable than I expected.
He's fine. He just is not subtle when it comes to fighting.
No. But all of that having been said, I really enjoy it. I think that if I were the type of person who played Skyrim without fast travel, I would find it annoying because there's basically landing zones on planets, your ship, flying around in your ship, and like interior buildings of landing zones, which are all distinct loading screen, separated segments.
Well, and like, let's get this out of the way because it is a complaint that I have heard. Planets are not actual contiguous things. Like you have a landing zone, a POI, and then you have a procedurally generated area that will be spawned around that POI, and you can roam around and you can find like materials and you can find assorted randomly generated camps of oftentimes random bad people, but like it's not really a fixed planet. Like you're going to a planet to a POI and then you can roam around that POI for a certain amount of time. I'm hoping at some point we get some kind of a dune buggy or a speeder or something.
Something to move a bit faster, like
a
space horse.
There's probably a horse armor joke here.
I will say that the thing that I really like is open your quest log, plot a course to the next objective.
Yep, and warp straight there.
Because it would be really painful if it were like, hey, I'm inside my base in this planet city. Walking, I would have to load into the city, walk over to the city to transport to the spaceport, load into the spaceport, walk over to my ship, load into my ship, walk up to the cockpit, load into the cockpit, take the ship off, load into space, plot a course to the system that I want to go in, load into the system, and there's like 5 more steps to this.
Like, you can do that. Like,
you can do that if you want. And the game actually, there's random events that happen relatively frequently and give you like new quests and stuff if you do that manual walking around, because you overhear people talking and you hear things, and other ships will hail you and tell you about stuff if they see you.
They inevitably do it as I am trying to grab jump.
Yeah, they do that. They like to do that a lot. They'll interrupt, but it's like frequent enough that that's not necessarily a boring thing. But if you're just like, I want to do the next thing, I was shocked to go from I'm standing in my base like 12 loading screens away from my destination, and I hit plot a course, and it's like, cool, and now I'm standing outside of my ship at my destination ready to go.
Right.
It's just exquisite fast travel.
The amount of choice that you're given in that decision is so nice, because like, I can load into my ship walking around, or I can load straight into the cockpit, or I can load straight to the POI that I'm going to.
Yeah, like they know that it is possible for you to have a lot of load screens. And so there's a lot of tools you have to just be like, no, let's cut a bunch of the nonsense. Let's just play this game. And honestly, it's a thing that I really appreciate coming off of Baldur's Gate, which I love, don't get me wrong, but man, did I spend a lot of time watching my characters run across maps.
Yep.
Even though I had unlocked every fast travel point on that map.
Yep.
I think there is some micromanagement to Baldur's Gate that needed to be rethought. Like, there needed to be a form a party like screen.
Yes.
Rather than like, hi, I need to have an awkward conversation with you where you're going to make a snippy remark at me and tell me that I should keep you even though you have 0 spell slots left today. Get out of my party.
Yeah.
Go take a nap.
Yeah, so like that's the nice thing about the party system in Starfield. I just go to the person that I want to take with me and say, follow me, and it automatically unfollows the previous one.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to do the pseudo I'm breaking up with you scene.
Yeah. There's also a whole menu for managing where your crew is based and stationed.
Right.
And like that's really important. And similarly, like if I want to go somewhere on the map, I pull up whatever map I need and hit, hey, go here. Which is a thing that going back to Baldur's Gate 3 a little bit, is a thing that the original Baldur's Gates did, and somehow Baldur's Gate 3 did not. And like, I guess there's complicated pathing or something, but like, let me click on the map and tell my party to go here.
Right. And get a sped up, gameplay while your party moves into motion. Like that's honestly my key complaint with Baldur's Gate 3 is there's a lot of time that you spend waiting on NPCs to move when you're not necessarily in range with them, but you have aggroed on them. And like, I remember in the original Baldur's Gate games, that would happen in super sped up time so that everybody would move really fast until it was actually decision time.
I mean, those games also don't have any turn-based anything, so combat in general can just be faster.
I mean, so far I like all of the characters other than the one that you first met. The one who gives you his ship.
Oh yeah, that guy's...
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, he's awful.
I hate that guy for multiple reasons, and not I think any of the reasons why I hate the guy for multiple reasons, and I don't think any of them were intentional, but it does bring me some joy that everyone else hates him too.
Yeah, no, like he's just the worst. Why are you even in Constellation?
Yeah, like it honestly helped my appreciation for the writing in this game to have everybody else hate that guy.
Well, like, I remember when it comes to the point where you're offered and he says, like, I'd really like to adventure with you some more. And that basically did the nah, bro, I'm fine option.
Yeah, I think that's an objectively correct decision, frankly.
Like, he's there if I ever need him, but, like, I'm not going to need him. The robot friend has already said that he likes traveling with me better. I really do like the NASApunk vibe, though, because, like, that is so good at times. Like,
Yeah,
especially when you go to, like, I think it's like you go to a derelict shipyard, and that was so cool to roam around in.
Yeah, the aesthetics and the vibes are like some of the best I've ever seen. And this game delivers on. I enjoy just walking around it in a way that, like, I did enjoy just walking around Cyberpunk for similar reasons. Like, its vibe was impeccable, and this is the same but for NASApunk stuff, and it's really, really cool. Like, big chunky spacesuits, really analog. You know, it's like the one meme where it's like, hey, that old 70s Starship Enterprise bridge is actually super realistic because you don't want fancy touchscreens. You want buttons that will work even if there's a giant hole in your ship. Like that, this is leaning into that, and it's kind of fun to have this big chunky, giant levers and big switches, and
everything is either canned or astronaut food.
Yeah.
I have seen the juice boxes of beer. Those look interesting.
Yeah, the juice boxes of alcohol are really funny. Like, there's just a ton of little details. The other little detail I love is you pick some traits at the start, and I was like, all right, time to min-max. And I read the traits, and I was like, what? One of the traits I took, I was telling Kodra about last night, one of the traits I took was kid stuff, which is, the trait is your parents are still alive and you can visit them, but you send 2% of your credits to them every week.
I like how the assumption is that your parents are dead because you are a video game protagonist. You have to spend a trait to have living parents.
Right? But also, I was like, all right, sure, let's visit my parents, because apparently I took a trait about it. It was actually, like, super wholesome and kind of nice, and, like, they came and toured my new base of operations and were, like, talking to everybody. It was actually really cool, and, like, they were so proud of my, like, they were super happy that I dropped in unannounced to visit them, which is an extremely like perfect little comment. But also, they were like, we're so excited about your new thing. We scraped together and we got you this unique present. I got, like, a fancy gun. They're like, you're gonna need it out there in the exploration. I was like, cool, thanks, Dad.
That's kind of cool, because, like,
it was really neat.
Most of the weapons are kind of generic so far.
Yeah, and it was neat to get one that's like, hey, this has a story behind it. Let's take this randomly modded weapon and...
I don't fully understand the blue, purple, orange system, because, like...
Hell if I know, man.
They don't necessarily mean... Like, they call them legendary and epic, but, like, purple gear isn't necessarily better than some of the normal white gear that I've found. It's
the star system in Fallout.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
How many stars does it? How many randomly unique traits does it have? Sometimes these are deeply questionable.
Sometimes they don't matter. Like, why do I have a radioactive knife?
Yeah.
It seems like a horrible idea.
I think the favorite one that I've seen so far is an incendiary dowsing pistol. You can use it to put out fires. Also, it sets things on fire.
I have questions.
I also have questions.
It
Sounds like
turns the light on.
Weapon.
Yeah, it turns the light on and turns the light off.
Like, that weapon sounds perfect for fighting the Flash.
I do also like your companions. Like, the companion commentary is also pretty good. They're impressed at some of the stuff that I can pick locks on.
Yes, constantly.
Like, did you really need to pick that up? Is that necessary? Like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe. Guess what? It's your new gun.
I love the digital lock picking system.
The new lockpicking system, I mean, I'm a big fan of lockpicking minigames. It is good. It needs more explanation. Like it needs a better tutorial because it took me about 20 locks to really understand what it was doing. But I think it's actually quite good.
That's interesting because, like, from the first lock, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get this. This is fine.
Well, what I couldn't figure out was why did it go inside a ring sometimes and not inside a ring other times? And it was and like, why does it consume a pick sometimes but not other times? And what took me clicking was it consumes a pick on the first. You can look at a lock for free, but the first time you try to do anything with it, that's when your pick is consumed for that series of attempts. And in order to get to the next ring in, you have to hit all of the pins. So I was picking like expert level locks early and was like, why? I don't understand. Like I thought I just needed to get to the middle, but I don't. Oh, I actually need to hit every pin through some combination of my tumblers. No.
Yeah. And you have to manually flip back and forth between the rings to figure out which one in sequence needs to happen now.
Yes.
And it also consumes a pick if you undo a change. So like if you get down so far and realize, oh crap, I wasted the right pick at the wrong time, you can undo back a step, but like it'll eat a pick every time you do that. Because there are some times that there are multiple combinations that would work until you get to the final ring. And then you realize, oh crap, I wasted the one I needed early. I've not seen I may just not have the skill for it. I've not seen the hacking minigame yet. Because like you know there is one. Like this is a Bethesda game. There's got to be a hacking minigame. I've just not seen it. Like
Maybe.
most of the computers that like I've seen a computer that I couldn't get into.
Oh, okay. Then
and
yes.
I'm guessing that it's just I don't have the skill.
I was wondering if it might just be because things are too analog.
No, you've got you've got proper computers. Like you've got an X Windows like operating system.
I was hoping maybe you might have to hack by like moving vacuum tubes around or something.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it is also a flow of water puzzle, like System Shock. Well, because System Shock it was like a circuit.
Yeah, BioShock was one with the weird pipe maze hacking minigame.
Yeah. My favorite hacking minigame in any game is the one from, I don't know if it was Mass Effect 2 or Mass Effect 3, where you're matching code segments.
Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, because it looks like code. Like, it is recognizable as, like, color-coded code.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's the Simlish version of code. I don't have a new ship yet. I think I need a new ship.
I looked at some prices of new ships, and boy howdy,
they're real spendy.
They there's a bunch of very, very overt. If you have played a lot of Bethesda games and know the kinds of things that people do in Bethesda games, there are some explicit attempts to not necessarily stop you from doing that, but encourage you to try maybe doing something different for once. And some of them work better than others. But definitely ships being bonkers expensive definitely feels like hey, it's super common for people to just ruinously break the game economy. Maybe let's put some severe money sinks in.
So the one thing that's breaking my immersion to some extent is there have been several camps that I have gone to that have had what appeared to be a fully functional ship that is part of the set dressing. Why can't I just steal one of those?
Okay. Yeah, that I can understand being a
because
little upset about.
There was a weapons facility that I went to that is very clearly a randomly generated weapons facility because there were no objectives at it. And
Yeah.
there's just a ship that they're loading stuff on that's in the middle of this base.
Are there other
It's-
ships you're able to hijack in this game? Is like ship
Not that
hijacking
I've
a
s-
thing?
Not that I've seen, but it would be lovely if I could just steal this ship.
Yeah, like maybe this game isn't supposed to be about becoming a space pirate.
You can absolutely become a space pirate.
I'll be honest. It is the opposite for me, where the fact that I can't just like hotwire a ship actually feels more convincing to me, because I feel like for something as expensive as a spaceship,
Right, the second I go into it, one of the mini ports that scans me, I'm sure I'd be in trouble.
no, I mean just starting it.
Yeah, like how do one of these how do you spin up a ship that you've never interacted with before?
I got a robot that knows a lot about my ship. Like, you
Your
can figure
ship?
it out.
Your ship, sure.
Like, I've run into several of these robots around different facilities. Like, it's the R2D2 droid of this universe. It's fine.
And I guess I have the same problem in like GTA, where I'm like, oh, I can just boost any parked car. Okay, not buying it. And I feel like I would put a little bit better security on my freaking spaceship than, my Toyota. But yeah, I can definitely see the hey, it should be easier to get
An additional ship? Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I just murdered this entire camp of people. They don't need it anymore.
Presumably somebody had the key.
Right, exactly.
Presumably.
Hope it's the future. Everything's biometric.
Yeah, I mean, and
I
that's
know
the
how to
thing.
deal with that.
Like, just lop off a hand. It's fine.
It's a solvable problem.
Again, they're not using it anymore.
I decided I needed to start hanging out with a companion that has more questionable morality.
I have my one companion that's like alternately horrified and impressed at my propensity for getting into places I shouldn't be.
Yeah, one of them got on to me for hacking a lock in the middle of the slums. I'm like, I'm in the middle of the slums. I'm fine. This is least of everyone's worries. So you rolled credits on Armored Core 6?
Yeah. This is now the third FromSoft game I've actually beaten, or beaten since Armored Core was a thing before. So in the last decade and change.
So that would be Sekiro, Elden Ring, and this one?
Yeah. I've gotten close on a few of them, but
I was going to say, I thought you beat Bloodborne.
I was going to also say I thought you beat Bloodborne.
I got close to the end of Bloodborne, but didn't actually beat it. I kind of like petered out towards the end. It's really interesting to me, having now beaten it. Armored Core 6 has learned it is not like playing Elden Ring. And I think that's a good thing. Like, it is a structurally different game in a variety of ways. But it has also learned some really good things from the bosses of Elden Ring. And so, like, all of the FromSoft games since Demon's Souls, it has learned from the bosses of, and I think that's a good thing for Armored Core. And then also, it isn't a Souls game. It is more compartmentalized. There are more missions. It does not have the die and go try to regain your progress loop at all. And boy, you have some choices you can make that mostly just are reflected in what mission do you take from whom. And I find myself wanting to try New Game. Apparently, the true ending you can only get if you beat New Game ++. Because there's 2-ish paths that I could see, and probably one more if I had done things a little differently. But also, I left with a few more questions than I started with, so I could see new things unfolding. Apparently, you can only play through like 2/3 of the available missions baseline.
Digimon Survive is also kind of like that. Actually, you need to beat the game 2.5 times before you can actually see the true ending.
Yeah,
It's a lot of commitment on a game.
On a games with mission structures that are broken down like nicely, it's not that bad actually.
like I'm already halfway through a New Game Plus playthrough just from like, let me spend a couple of hours hitting some missions in between. Like I'm already at the Act 1 boss the second time around, just from like, I don't know, let me try a few missions and see how funny it is to roll around with my end game build from before. P.S. It's very funny. But yeah, it was good. I really liked that game. Some absolutely brutal bosses. in a few places. But I love that you can, the bit where I can, after having died, completely rebuild my mech to better suit the fight that I'm about to go in is great. Because that's the thing I've run into in Elden Ring, where I'm just like, hey, I'm just ill-equipped or poorly built to fight this boss. Like, I could fight this boss, I just don't have the right stuff for it. But yeah, that was really cool.
That's pretty sweet. And so what I've played a little bit of this, not nearly as much as you, but one of the things I appreciate is that not every mission is a high intensity boss fight. There's a lot of just very chill, go beat up a bunch of mooks and get money. That's the majority of what it is. And so it's a little bit, it's pretty casual in that regard. Those missions don't feel very stressful in the way that the chopper fight certainly did.
That's probably a show, I think.
Yep.
We got a little bit of a late start, so it's kind of hard for me to gauge, but I think so.
We're professionals, yo.
Any final thoughts?
It's good games. There's a lot of good games out right now. Almost no matter what you like to play, there's probably a good game for you.
There's too many good games.
There are so many good games.
I finally started Baldur's Gate 3 today.
It's a game.
That's how far behind on good games I am.
I have not played Final Fantasy 16 at all.
Same.
Good game.
There's a lot of good games.
It says something that I've put together. I think somebody, was it Ash, that commented that I put together just a flash list of all of the good games that come out and forgot entirely about a new good Final Fantasy release, which tells you how many good games there are.
Every so often, there's one of these years, and this is going to be one of these years.
1997 doesn't come around every year, but sometimes.
We're kind of getting into a topic I had that I think we're pushing to the next show.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway.
This year is particularly good.
Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.